Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Ketchadori.
Hey, welcome back. It's Yeukai once more. Look, if you missed out on our promotion for the How to Start, Scale, and Monetize Your Podcast program, the mini workshop that we just had, don't worry, we are going to be relaunching that program again next month. But today, it's just a day because today we're talking to Angela Lee. Angela has an incredible story. Let me ask you a question before I introduce Angela. Have you perhaps recently, or maybe not too long distance ago, found yourself in an adversity situation? Well, if you have, you are in the right place because Angela faced what I would consider a horrible childhood, but she has come out strong. That childhood has trained her on how to deal with life, how to deal with different circumstances in a way that I think you, as a business owner, Bill, specifically for you, you can learn one or two things from it. Now, let me just go over Angela's, media kit right here so that I get everything. Bring Angela on the show straight away. Now, Angela was born and grew up in San Francisco, and she had an alcoholic father and an angelic mother, not the case often. My moms are incredible, who both had a profound impact on her life. Her father taught her that the behavior of others made her a powerless victim. Her mother taught her to be loving to everybody, including those who had you. Angela, thanks again for joining us and agreeing to do this with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
Angela, I love what you teach and what you've gone on to do since that perhaps a terrible start to life and your experience there and what you're doing right now. And I know you are one of the amazing authors, and you recently had Jack Cranfield endorse one of your books. Tell us about that actually before we go into all these things, because that's an exciting part.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, talk about a dream come true. Jack Canfield was sent a chapter from the next book. I write children's fairy tales, but in my fairy tales, I build all the life lessons that I learned from all the adversity I went through into the storyline to help children be emotionally intelligent. And as any business owner knows, having an emotionally intelligent, high EQ employee they are worth their weight in gold. So I'm trying to raise up a generation of high EQ people through my fairy tales. And Jack Canfield endorsed it, saying that children who read the series will know that love is the answer.
I love that. I've got so much respect for Jack and the things he has contributed in the entrepreneurial world where I belong, which is incredible. Angela, tell us your story. I know I've left a lot of things there before we dive deep to help our business owners who are going through the adversity, that are going through difficulties. Tell us maybe very briefly what your childhood was, and how you ended up in an abusive relationship which lasted for 32 years, and the dramatic events that led you to, leave that relationship and created the life of your dreams.
Okay, I'll try to do the 5-minute
overview. A bit of a challenge there for you, Angela.
So I was born in San Francisco, and as you said, I did have an alcoholic dad. But the word alcoholic dad, that doesn't really describe what happened. He was emotionally, physically, and sexually abusive to us. And the terror that he instilled in us by threatening to kill our mom, and while we were really young in front of us. And um, the total rage that just radiated off him. And so what happened when I was a little kid, and I laugh at this because who it'll make sense later, who goes through this. So when I was 5, my house burned down and I was sent to foster care for a little while. And between all of the events of my childhood, what I ended up with was lack of self-love. I believe that parents teach children either how to be or how not to be. So in my case, I chose to not be like my dad. So um, becoming an alcoholic was off the table for me. But I also learned to repress anger
Right.
because of his rage.
Right.
As we fast forward into my adulthood, I married a man who was older than me, and he soon became controlling. And as long as he felt that he was number one in my life, everything was fine. But when our son was born and I um, had unconditional love for our son, then that um, began creating problems because he didn't hold the number one spot totally at that
Right.
point. So he would basically yell at me for 5 or 7 hours at a time
Whew.
if he felt that I didn't agree with him. And looking back on it, I know that it was my own lack of self-love and my repression of anger that put me in the space where I would sit and let someone do that to me.
Right.
And if I had valued myself enough, I would have stood up and said, no, this is done, and found another way to deal with it.
Mm.
Um, what happened in my adulthood is the Tubbs wildfire came to Santa Rosa, California in 2017. And in a terrifying night, it destroyed 5,000 homes in our community,
Right.
one of which was ours. So we went overnight from, a lovely suburban home with all the accoutrement to basically being homeless with only the clothes on our back. And I used to joke saying I was homeless with resources because I knew I had insurance and eventually they would pay. Um, but it was a unique situation to be in. The adversity of the fire has really affected a lot of people. As I said, there were 5,000 homes
You did.
destroyed in the community. And it's what I've learned is that what perspective we have when we look at what happens to us or what happens around us, whether we see ourselves as the victim of that crisis or we see the crisis as, okay, that is a closed door to that old situation. Now I have to find an open door to go through. And how do I get on with my life from this?
Yeah.
And it really comes down to the quality of the questions you're asking yourself. Why
Absolutely.
did this happen to me? Victim perspective.
Indeed.
How can I overcome this? Is a empowered perspective.
Yes. One of the things that happened during that time, Angela, you were telling me earlier on that you discover, perhaps a place of power within you because you had lost everything and you started questioning everything. Why you were in that relationship for a long time and was it worth going forward? And you made a decision to step out and you went on a journey. which has allowed you really to utilize your experience there and take a look at that as a gift. And now you are sharing your experience from an empowered position to help other people. Tell us what happened.
So actually, I went into a dark night of the soul after the fire. I went into a depression and questioned everything. What's the meaning of life? Are things important? And I came up with no, things don't matter at all. People do.
That's right.
And what I came down to is this the life I truly am meant to live?
Right.
Where I am allowing myself to be the victim in this marriage. And I decided no. I actually had someone ask me, if you knew that marriage was eternal, would you marry your husband again? And I had a visceral body reaction of no.
Oh, wow.
And that question triggered within me, then, well, if that's how I feel about it, why am I married now?
Wow, that's a great question to be asking. Yeah, absolutely. It says even if you're a business owner listening to this, a question like that will reveal whether you're supposed to be doing the business you're doing or not. If you can't say yes to that, maybe you may want to look at other alternatives, other opportunities that are there, so that you can begin to do things that you truly love, things that makes you feel great. Because life, Angela and I will tell you that it is meant to be enjoyed, meant to be in a place of grateful, not complain, not a place of feeling like you're a victim of circumstances. And I know, Bill, you're taking notes on this one, and you will be applying at this as well. So the question again is, if, say, for example, if you were to do this internally, would you do it again? If the answer is yes, keep doing it. If the answer is absolutely not, maybe it's time to find out what else to do. Angela, coming back to you on that one of the things that happened during that time when you were going through perhaps what are the most enlightening moments of your life is you discover that it was a gift, that experience of losing everything because it brought you to where you are. And then you discover how to neutralize your emotional triggers to achieve a more balanced life. Would you talk about those emotional triggers that perhaps your marriage was, sort of bringing to your attention, from your childhood?
Absolutely. So, one thing that occurred to me is that everybody in our life is a mirror for who we are. And so when we are triggered by someone's behavior, we can choose not to be reactive to their behavior if we can understand that they are holding up a mirror for us to see where we are triggered. And so that creates a space of neutrality where you're not pointing a finger and blaming someone for their behavior. Once you can do that, then you look at yourself and you say, okay, is this thing that is triggering me, is the energy that I'm putting into it based on what's happening right here, right now in front of me? Or is it being informed by some other thing that happened to me at some time in my life, maybe in childhood? Or is it being informed by something someone said to me when I was a child? And when we can determine, is is the thought mine or does it belong to someone else? Mother saying, um, you know, people should never yell at you. And then me being reactive to my husband who yelled at me. Did her talking to me about that feed into my reaction? When when I examine that and say, yes, that did feed into my reaction, is that my belief or is it my mother's belief? When I ask those questions, then I can disengage from the belief because I don't have to choose my mother's belief.
That's right.
So that is part of the whole perspective shift, because when you're in the energy of being reactive, you're not able to disengage and be neutral. It's a choice you need to make as soon as you start feeling the reaction point. That's when you can disengage and start the process of being neutral, which is to seek answers, ask questions, examine your responses. And when you can do that, you step out of victimhood and you're not the victim. Then you can make a wise and just response to the
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely. We want to talk about the tools that you have developed as to how to be neutral. But before we do that, I just want to point out to business owners, if you're listening to this for a start, you're in the right place, because we teach business owners not to react, but be somebody who steps aside, observe what's going on, and make an informed decision as to the way you go. Leaders don't react, they plan, they are proactive, they know what is coming, and they have already figured out how to deal with that. As long as you are reacting to situation, reacting to an employee, reacting to the directors, or reacting to external agencies, you want to do some inner work in yourself. Where are you being triggered? Is something that is triggering helping you, or is supporting you, or not supporting you? And this is one of those lessons that you just have to learn. You and I know that the moment you enrolled into entrepreneurship, you went into a personal development journey. And this is one of those personal development aspects that you need to address. So you want to look inwardly and say, okay, when I'm in a situation like this, build the situation I'm talking about. Perhaps it's coming straight to your mind that you just find yourself reacted in the area of money. Is it an area of people management, or even an area of going after new deals? How are you responding? How are you reacting? So we want to encourage you to take time, step back, perhaps close your eyes, visualize going into a new deal and dealing with the situation from an empowered position, not from a helpless position. Because when you're reacting, it's like you're giving your power away. You don't want that. Leaders don't do that. Angela, coming back to you, what sort of tools have you discovered that works to help neutralize that emotional triggers that perhaps people may experience?
Well, the first thing I want to say is sometimes you have to leave the battleground
That's
in
right.
order to become neutral. And so give yourself grace if you are reactive when you're in the battleground, because that is a natural human response.
I love that.
However, when you can step away and take that moment to start asking the questions and looking at your own internal reactivity, that's when you can start using the tools that I'm going to talk about. One is taught by Dr. Donald Epstein of Epienergetics, and he teaches it as AAA. So this is for managing feelings. You are aware of the feeling, you acknowledge the feeling, and you accept the feeling.
Amazing.
And it sounds so easy, and it's also difficult and painful. So when there's a feeling that we consider painful, let's say grief, because grief, it can be such an overwhelming feeling when someone we care for leaves or dies. With grief, feelings are energy, and so they come in waves. But when we latch on to a feeling and we make it part of our identity, so I am a widow, I lost my husband, that would then this is my excuse for being sad all the time. In that case, this example of a person, they are actually grasping on to that feeling and holding it tight and making it who they are, which can be as bad as rejecting or suppressing or escaping a feeling. The key to feelings is to be neutral to them. So when we can look at a feeling and say, oh, gosh, I'm sad, and not latch on to the feeling of sadness, but actually just notice it. And then by saying, oh, gosh, I'm sad, you've acknowledged I'm having this feeling. And it's actually better to say, I feel sad than it is to say, I am sad, because claiming something through I am actually is making it part of you. So I feel sad. And then, you know what? I lost my dog. It's okay for me to feel sad. Then that feeling flows and you're in a space of neutrality. The feeling will dissipate. It is only when we are reactive to a feeling, either by grasping onto it or pushing it away, that the feeling will stick with us.
Wow, that's very profound. That's very profound. Very simple, like you said, when you grasp the whole process. But thank you for sharing that. We want to talk, perhaps, move on to the next part, which you are a master at when you talk about perception, that your perception can sort of color your reality. Educators are here, Angela.
Okay, so there is a saying in the Talmud that we do not see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And I believe what that statement is talking about is our perceptions. So, how we perceive, the filters through which we look at the world, creates the reality that we live in. And that sounds like mumbo jumbo, but when you think about it, if I'm focused on COVID-19 and I have a lot of fear over catching the virus, and I'm reading the news every day and I'm filling my head with COVID-19 information, that focus on that thing is creating this. It is the world that I'm living in.
Amazing. It really is. Yeah, I remember when I first came into the world of understanding about the law of attraction and the concept that you become what you think about, what you focus on most of the time. At first I resisted it because I thought, what, that can't be right. But the more I look at it closely and I notice that the people who talk about wealth, they seem to have more wealth because that's where they are focused. The people that talk about poverty, they tend to have more of it. So what you talk about, because what you talk about is what you're thinking about most of the time, you tend to attract, you tend to experience more of it. And people that talks about health, sickness and things not so well, they tend to leave those things over and over and over and over again. When you hear it for the first time, of course you resist it because it is too painful to grasp. But when you take a moment to actually think what is going on and be open to changing, that what if I start, and of course you're going to do some work towards that. What if you start changing what you're thinking about or your perception about what you're going through? Could it be possible? Just open. Could it be possible that you could change your life, change your reality, change where you are headed as a direction? I happen to have considered it and see it works. So, Bill, if you're listening, we've been doing this for a long time. I want to encourage you to do exactly the same thing. What part of your business, what part of your life that seems not to work so well? What if you could change the way you look at it, the way you perceive the situation, and begin to look at the possibilities, positive aspects of it, and begin to take the corrective action. And of course, as we always say, find somebody who is doing what you want to do and they're playing at the highest level and mimic what they're doing. Who knows? You might begin to get some different results. Now, how do you determine whether a perception the difference between a perception and the actual reality. How do you get yourself to say, okay, this is what I perceive and this is the reality? How do you go about doing that?
So it's really easy for me to describe in terms of the me that I was in my marriage and the me now.
Right.
When I was in my marriage, I pointed the finger. I blamed him. He was doing this to me. He did that. He yelled at me for 7 hours straight. He did it. And as soon as I was able to say, hey, but wait a minute, I'm the one who sat there and let him do that. I'm the one who. So as soon as I started looking at what responsibility do I hold in this situation, that allowed me to step out of victimhood. And as soon as I don't have that filter, that perspective of being the victim, now I'm empowered and I
Indeed.
can start making choices. So when we are looking, if your business partner cheated you and stole money from your business, you can look at that and you can say they did this, and that is all true. But does that perspective serve you? Does being the victim of that person help you in your business? When you can say, this happened, these are the things I learned from it, and now I'm going to go in this other direction, that is when you're empowered and you're able to make choices.
Totally. I absolutely believe that. And I also subscribe to that notion that victimhood doesn't serve you. The moment you take responsibility and stop blaming, you know what, Angela, when I was growing up, I heard that it was the government's fault. It was, the family I was born, played a role for me not to be where I wanted to be. Although there was an element of truth in that. But when you're an adult, you get to a place where you begin to realize that you can do something about it and change the course of your life. And if you're listening to me as a business owner, maybe there's an area in your life that is not working so well. What can you do about it? Stop blaming the government. Stop blaming everybody else. Start thinking about a role that you can play. Start small, and you will be amazed because human beings, us, we have this incredible ability to focus on something and to hold on to it and start moving in that direction. So we want to encourage you to do that. Angela, as we come toward the end of our time together, I know you've got you've got some more training available for people who want to further their education or learn from you, or maybe get some of your books. Where can they find you?
Well, my website, Angela Legh, it's Legh, no I in there, legh.com. You can find my children's books, which are the Bella Santini Chronicles. They're on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble, so they're readily available. I have an online course that teaches adults how to shift perspectives, manage their emotions, have self love and self trust, and ask questions because questions are so important.
That's right.
So, curiosity and adding playfulness to our lives because that's important too. That online course is also available through my website. If you go into the online store where you could purchase different things like meditations or my online course.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Any final thoughts to the business owners? Something that you wish people in the business community would know that can serve them better?
So to me, what I tell everybody is one of the most important questions I ever asked is how can I be love in this situation?
Wow.
So when faced with hardship, when faced with adversity, how can I be love in this situation?
Amazing. Great question to ask for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. There you have it. Angela Legh sharing her journey of how she overcame adversity, how she has managed to neutralize any emotional triggers that were causing her to be in a reactive mood, and how you too, as a business owner or somebody who is aspiring to achieve greatness, because there is greatness in you, just like as Brown now talks about, there is greatness in you. And this lesson perhaps has given you a little bit of nugget of what you need to begin to look at. So I want to encourage you to go to angelalegh.com to find out more information, or follow Angela on all social media platforms. And also, if you can't do that, just reach out to the community. Somebody knows something that you don't know, and you may just discover that the person you're going to ask may be able to give you something to improve your life. Until next time, I want to leave you with these thoughts. Live well, live with passion. Know that the best is yet to come. Stay away from blaming, complaining, but do the work and continue building your business. Until next time, thanks again for joining us. Angela, thank you again for being here, and can't wait to hear your success story on your next endeavor for sure.
Oh, thank you so much.
This has been an absolute pleasure. Okay, guys, talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.